put your hands together for Raine Stern.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm surprised that came out as clear as it did. Here's why. I have a 4-month-old puppy, and this is not the story. This is just a prerequisite. She jumped up, hit me in the face recently. It was very innocent, hurt nonetheless, and I bit the shit out of my tongue. And so you may hear some lisping throughout the story. I hope it wins me cute points. So without further ado, I'm a musician. There it is. There's a first lisp of the... I'm a musician, and I'm really freaking good at what I do. No. Wow, anyways. I have been writing songs for a long time. I'm 21 years old, and I started when I was about 11. And a lot of people in Madison know me. I'm a guitar player, songwriter, singer. And I've had a lot of people see me play and then reach out to me on social media and take interest and be like, hey, I'd like to play with you, or would you play with me, or we have this event, or I've got this gig, could you fill in? And I've learned to be skeptical and cautious because not only am I a young woman, but I am also a performer. So when you put the two of those together, it's like double the harassment, if not triple. And so this one guy, he keeps like reaching out to me and being like, hey, I heard you're pretty good. Like, would you come like over to my house sometime and we can play, and I'll like show you some cool jazz chords and gospel chords and stuff because I'd like you to play in this church. And I had been ignoring him for a long time because I was like, I don't want anything to do with that. Partially because the first thing you said was come over to my house, and secondly because I am a bisexual woman and the church was not my friend for a long time. But I eventually played this gig with a buddy of mine, Adam Pryor, and he was like, oh, do you know Dan? He's like this really, really good key player. And I was like, yeah, I think that guy's been messaging me a bunch. And he was like, you should message him back. He's really good. So eventually I went over and I started playing guitar for this predominantly black gospel church in Sun Prairie. And I loved it. And I learned a lot. And he would buy me lunch like every day after Sunday, after church service. And I grew to actually like be pretty close to him and like him. And I also, just a little side story so that you can understand why all this is so important and going in the direction it is. I was in a Prince tribute band for a couple summers ago. You may have heard of them, Purple Veins. And we played at the Majestic, and that's a whole nother story in itself that has a bunch of holy shits in it, actually. I just am now remembering that. That's for another time. This story has several holy shits. It's layers. And so he knows that, and I wasn't really a Prince fan before that tribute band, but it was another situation where someone was like, I hear you play guitar really well, would you come play for us? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then I was playing in 6 bands all at once, which was a lot. And what ended up happening was Dan was like, well, you're a Prince fan. And I was like, yeah, I am. And he was like, well, I actually have met the drummer and bass player and a bunch of the members that used to play for him. And they're in Minneapolis, and they play at this hole-in-the-wall bar called Bunkers all the time still. Let me take you. And I was like, absolutely. So one day we drive up there, and I bring a friend and my brother, and we go and we watch these guys play, and it's one of the members' 70th birthday, and he introduces me, and I'm like, holy shit, like I'm like meeting these guys, this is amazing. And then Dan walks me up and he goes, hey, Sonny. Sonny was Prince's bass player, and he's like, you should meet Raine. She's a really good guitar player and songwriter. And then he's just like, yeah, cool. And he's like, you want to sit in with us and play with us? And I was like, holy shit. And I was like, hell yeah, absolutely. And later I go up to play guitar with them. And then the guy hands me the guitar, and he's like, I didn't want to tell you, before. He's like, but I'm going to tell you anyways. And he was just like, Prince himself has played that guitar like hundreds of times. And then I was like, holy shit, why did you do that right before I'm about to play? And, but it went really well. And Sonny Thompson walks up to me, and Michael Bland's this like famous drummer. He's this huge dude. And he's like basically the size of his drum set, but like, dude fucking plays. And Sonny Thompson walks up to me, he's like, do you have a business card? That was cool. And then Michael gets my contact through Sonny, messages Dan, because they're friends on Facebook, and goes, hey, so you said that girl like also writes songs. Does she have anything? Would you send it to me? And he's like, you got some demos? And I was like, I got some like rough scratch recordings, but sure. And I sent them to him. And then he texts me back like 3 hours later and says, Michael wants you and me to drive up to Minneapolis in like 2 days, so I hope you don't have any plans. And I was like, holy shit. And so he said, like, bring like 10 songs. We're going to just run through them, and then I'll pick some, and maybe we'll record them, maybe we won't. I get there and play them a bunch of my stuff. It's a long story, so I'm kind of skipping through like a bunch of really crazy shit that happened. A lot of famous people that were like walking in and out, and I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And I actually wrote a song like in the car on the way there, and that ended up being his favorite song of mine. And he picked 3, and we conversed, and he was just like, yeah, let's do it, let's record you. And I was like, I'm gonna record 3 of my own original tunes with like the Power Generation members. This is insane. I'm gonna be famous in like 6 months. I just got to get this cranked out and call the press. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But I got so wrapped up in how excited I was that I worked really, really hard on getting these recordings. Like they were in Minneapolis, I was in Madison. It was too much to like keep driving all the time, so we were just kind of going through email. And Michael's kind of requirements kept changing. He was like, get me like a rough track of his stuff so that I can like lay some ideas down. And I was like, okay, cool. So I sent him some stuff, and then he's just like, there's a few things that are out of time, fix that. And he's like, quantize it. And I was like, I don't even know what the fuck quantize means. Just so you realize how difficult like being like a producer or an engineer is. Quantizing means that you do a recording, and then you have to zoom in really, really like far on your computer and cut every single note, find exactly where it's supposed to go, and drag it to precisely that place, which I have now learned to do, and it's really hard and time-consuming. But here's the crazy part. I go over to Dan's house, and we're 1 week away from going into the studio and recording my songs, and like feels like I'm about to change my entire life. And I say, dude, I've been so wrapped up in how exciting this is that I completely forgot like to mention the legalities of everything. And I was like, we need to get a contract. I need to have my rights protected, and I need to have myself held accountable for paying everybody, and everybody's like safe and secure. And he goes, and his face completely changes. I'd known this dude for like a year, and he like brought me all these opportunities, had my back, and then he goes, getting pretty big for your britches, huh? Like you think, and I was just like, he's like, I've offered you this opportunity, like I had you meet these guys, and I was like, whoa, I thought this was like industry standard, this is like protocol, you know, like, why are you freaking out? And my dad calls me right at that very moment. It was very odd timing, and he's like, what's going on? And I was like, well, I was just kind of talking to Dan about like getting a contract, and he's like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. And then he's just like, hang the phone up right now. And I was like, whoa, dude, this is crazy. You're freaking out. Like, don't you want this for me? Like, don't you want me to be safe, and don't you want me to be held accountable for paying these guys what they deserve? And he ends up kicking me out of his house. And I had a bunch of my equipment there, and I was like, this is like the third holy shit. I was like, oh my God, it's over. This huge opportunity I just got fucking dropped on me and taken away. And I leave, and for maybe an hour or two, I was felt really like I had experienced a true loss. But since then, I've realized that I have had a blessing in disguise. I actually learned something before my career really took off, and I got really thick in some shit. And I actually had something really good happen to me. And that is that I got really excited, and people who have played with the best saw something in me and were like, we want to work with you, which already means that those doors are going to continue to open and all is not lost. And I also learned patience, and I learned to be cautious and who my real friends and family are in that moment. And I went and I kind of had an arrangement, and we met up in a super Walmart parking lot, exchanged some stuff, and that was it. And we haven't spoken since then, and it's going on a year because this happened last year. And it's amazing to me because I tried calling Michael Bland, the guy who is Prince's drummer, and being like, hey, this has all been a misunderstanding. Is there a time when we can talk? And I don't know what Dan told him, but it must have been some bullshit because Michael was like, you know what? No, I don't. It's just let's move on. Opportunity lost. And that's fine because now I have some of the most incredible players, and I'm currently recording my album, and I'm actually in a mentally much healthier place with people who I love. And I'm here, and I have seen and witnessed a lot of other people who are sharing themselves, and I've got that opportunity to do the same. And honestly, that's really it. But the last thing I'll say is, I guess continue to actually live life and be active to the point where holy shit's good or bad are gonna happen to you. Because as scary as the bad holy shits are, isn't life all about the calm after the storm and then doing it all over again? So, anyways, holy shit.
Great job. Thank you, Raine. I love that. Continue to live life and let the holy